which we can properly arrange next year, selecting only one place, not to move from place to place, and having one subject to study as a series of lessons and not lectures. Because for lectures we run from place to place, whereas those who wanted lessons this year, they had to run with me from place to place. And there are who are running like that with me last year and this year also, while all others have a beautiful pastime in the holiday once or twice in the classes, because they could not understand the difference between classes and lectures. So next year we will have classes of course different from what we call the lectures for philosophy, spiritualism and pastime. So homeopathy and the homeopathic understanding of disease and diagnosis, the secret of selecting the medicine and deciding the dilution and the repetition of the dose can be given in a maximum of 7 classes or even 6 classes, which we can bring to a week end, so that those who are really interested will take part next year in the course. I thank you all once again for the opportunity you have given to see you all collectively once again before I leave the country, before we meet next year. And I thank the hosts and hostess once again, and any relevant questions upon the subject are welcome. Yes, in any, yes, please. That is immediate. Yes, you can. Yes. Not only homeopathy, any system, self-medication is highly dangerous. At present, our generation is experiencing the evils of self-medication. For example, the use of the pills, the use of the postponement tablets, and the endocrine medicines that are used, and the enzymes that are unnecessarily used, the antacids that are eaten by some fellows daily, and the aspros and aspirins used daily for eaten by, like food by some people. They kill the tissues of the patients secretly inside, and after a 10 years or 20 years of eating medicine daily, these unfortunate fellows will be left with an incurable case, which means a great festivity to the specialist. No use at all to the patient, except a very painful and panicky end. But because we belong to a rather unscientific century, we are behaving in such a way with the medicines. In homeopathy, the danger is more than in allopathy, because the medicine works upon the personality and not only the tissues. There is a wrong idea about homeopathy among the common public, that if a medicine is used for oneself without consulting a doctor, just as we use the aspro or something else, then if the medicine is effective, it is okay. If the medicine is not effective, nothing harmful happens. This is sheer ignorance, as dark as new moon. There are people who purchase bottles of tuya for themselves and eat by themselves because they have cysts and corns and polyps. They begin to eat according to their own dosage, and they say no results at all. They have to wait for the results, inevitable results, because the required results are not there. The cyst is not disturbed because the medicine does not belong to their personality. But unfortunately, there are pharmacists who say that tuya is best for cysts, but tuya is for persons, not for cysts. Any homeopathy medicine is only for persons, not for cyst or hair or barb. So, if such a fellow who used tuya for 6 months or 7 months for cysts and says no results, if he waits for 5 or 6 years, he will experience the results, which can never be removed by any system on this earth. Sometimes he has to die in panic and crazy suffering, which can never be removed. I have seen with my own eyes wonderful cases that could not be cured. There was the only son of rich parents in India, and he was for some time studying with us in the university when we were students. And after a certain time, he had a big disappointment in love, and some social conditions did not permit him to marry the girl he wanted to marry, and he was having a big shock and a disturbance in constitution. He tried to consult many doctors and have comfort with sedatives and tranquilizers. No use. Then he studied the homeopathy materia medica by himself. Without knowing anything of it, he selected a medicine called acid phosphoricum, which is predominantly a mental medicine and has horrible abnormalities of the mental behavior. And somebody advised him that 50 ml is a good dilution. He did not know what dilution was. He purchased a bottle and asked the pharmacist what is the dose. He said daily 2 doses, one morning and one in the night. The fellow said, is it not enough if I take 1 dose day? Then the pharmacist said, okay, you take only 1 dose. So he took daily 1 dose and he tried it for 3 months. No results, because the drug does not belong to his personality. He stopped it. Then the drug made its appearance upon him gradually. That is what happens when a medicine is repeatedly used when it is not indicated to a person. It produces the abnormalities of its own personality upon the patient, permanently engrafted, so that in the language of J.T. Kent, the disease lives with the patient up to the grave. That is what happens when homeopathy is used by oneself. That is the abuse of homeopathic medicine. There are people who have a homeopathic chest in their house, and whenever there is some pain, they take a dose of Roostak, and whenever there is some gonfly on the wrist, they take a dose of causticum and they eat. So, after 10 or 20 years of such wonderful auto treatment, which is worse than suicide, because suicide kills and suicide kills the body only, it never kills mind or person, but this kills the whole personality. And you will find the patient suffering for 20 or 30 years, day by day growing more and more nervous and depressed, heart more and more palpitating, and mind, presence of mind gradually going away, and after a certain time having a double mind. That means this evening I will say, Mr. Marcel, tomorrow morning you take me to the railway station. If tomorrow morning Marcel comes to take me to the railway station, I will ask him, why do you come so early in the morning? He is stunned to see me, because he has only one mind. I have 2 minds now. Now he says, shall I take you to the station? Are you going to take the journey today? I say, not at all. Then Marcel says, yesterday you said you were going to India. Then I answer, today I am not going. But again in the evening I ask Marcel, why didn't you take me this morning? That is what is called 2 minds. For an hour I say, tomorrow I will start and go home India, because I feel like seeing my children and wife. And tomorrow morning I say, no, that's all nonsense. I have still work for 1 more month in Europe. That is called the double mind. The worst stage, which can never be cured, when there is a misuse of homeopathic medicines. I see that fellow went on the streets naked for 3 years. The fellow, my classmate I told you, after the use of acid phosphoricum 50 ml, he was quite moody for 2 years. In the meanwhile, it has established its own personality upon him, and gradually he was found on the streets. After some months, he was found naked, and he was taken and thrown in the lunatic asylum, where he lived for 3.5 years and died. That is a typical example I have seen of the misuse of homeopathic medicine. Antidotes, no antidote at all. There are antidotes, but antidotes work only in the earlier stages, because there are two stages in a deep, what are called the deep acting medicines. When a deep acting remedy is given, there is a period until which the medicine works upon the patient. It is called the period of primary action. Then the constitution begins to react upon the medicine, producing its own effects. It is called the period of secondary action. And when the deep acting remedies are administered, the dose can be antidoted only when it is in a stage of the primary action. When the constitution has started to establish the secondary action, especially when there is a sufficient repetition of the dose, the vital body, or what we call the etheric body, will have already the diverted channels of force currents. What happens when you have already diverted a river from its bed into towns and villages? The same thing happens here also. So it can never be antidoted after a certain time. So in the language of J.T. Kent, the medicine lives with the patient up to the grave. That is what he writes. Yes. Yeah, phytotherapy. Not at all. No two systems are antagonistic. Every system has its own effective way of use, but no two systems should be simultaneously used. We can use phytotherapy also, but not along with homeopathic treatment. Or you can use the herbs of the phytotherapy after they are made homeopathic medicines. That is, you can make experiment of the herb you are using upon healthy persons, just as the homeopathic materia medica is constructed previously. Then you will find the distortions the medicine makes. So after you construct the mental symptoms and the modalities of the herb you are using, if you select that herb according to the indication, then it is called the homeopathic use of that particular new herb. In such a way, we can discover thousands of new medicines and use, but still it is scientific homeopathy. But to use the same medicines in another method belongs to another system of medicine, which can also be used either before or after the homeopathic treatment, but not simultaneously. Pardon? No, in stories, the double personality belongs to the capacity of the novelist to create. But here you will find it realistic in people. So it is more consistent and more clear and more dramatic than you find in the novels and dramas, because it is always problematic. The person will be always against himself. You cannot do anything. Right. But any treatment requires a change of alimentation, not only homeopathy, but the change is based upon your present stage of constitution and its requirements, and not homeopathy or allopathy. So always the changes that are to be made in the alimentation should be made on the basis of the present stage of the constitution and its requirements. But some spicy materials should be avoided in homeopathy, because they are not expected to disturb the homeopathic medicines. For example, if we take onions or garlic while having a homeopathy treatment, they will disturb the medicines we take, and the results will be mixed or sometimes nil. Such cautions there are a few about homeopathy, but they do not belong to the alimentation. What? No, no. Oh, that is. Pardon? Our Marcel proposes result is the standard, but there it is not easily possible. The first of all, you can remember that if the doctor uses only one remedy during a course of treatment, and if he wants to change the remedy, he stops the first remedy and then starts the second remedy, so that he never uses more than one remedy simultaneously. You can take it as a standard of a true homeopath, and he uses medicine rarely. Unless there is real necessity, he never uses repetition of dose. And in the cases he is curing, if you find that the patients are mentally better, having better common sense and better understanding than they were in the previous, and better in vitality and alimentation, then you can take the doctor as a good homeopathic doctor. But roughly speaking, we cannot judge a stranger whether he is a good doctor or not in any system. Aromas? Yes, spices.
No, not really spices. Herbs we use when we want to cook.
For example? I see. Yes. No. When something has a real food value, that is, if it is proved that it nourishes any part of the human constitution, and if it helps the tissues, that means it can never be used as a medicine. Therefore, there will be no danger at all of such things continuously used. But there are certain things which are not having food value at all, but are used in food materials. Such things produce disease when too much used. For example, salt. Salt has no nutritive value to the body, but it is necessary for the chemistry, biochemistry of the constitution. So, when we are using salt, we should use carefully, not to use too much. Like that, there are a few materials about which we can be careful in using. Except those few materials, there is no danger of using these aromatics in food materials. But if there are too much spicy things, like cardamom or clove, or cumin, they should be used limited. The more they are used, the more the constitution becomes immune, and the capacity to cure itself becomes reduced day by day. But things that are proved of having food value can never be, need not be feared at all. Pardon? Yes, radiesthetician can have the radiesthetology as a different science with a different name and make his own approach to cure, but the diagnosis cannot be used for a homeopathic cure, because what the masters of homeopathy teach us is, we select a medicine only according to the symptoms the patient shows. That is the result of the homeopathic case taking. We have no business to violate their principle, if we can call it homeopathy, but we can use the other science with its own separate name, make cures differently without calling it homeopathy, then there will be no confusion. If the patient is in a curable stage, there is no question of a remedy not working upon anyone. There is no exception. No, the 6 lessons can never be used to become a good homeopath. Just as 6 years of medical study may leave us a perfect fools in medicine. So, so it is for us to become homeopaths, and the 6 classes help us not to misunderstand homeopathy and not to make mistakes in studying homeopathy, so that we go in right direction. If you purchase a ticket to India in the aeroplane and you place me in the aeroplane going to India, can it be called a voyage to India? But if I behave properly, I can have a voyage, safe voyage home with that ticket and with that aeroplane. So that all depends upon the good behavior of the person who receives the lessons. Homeopathy? Yes. You should be able to read first lectures on homeopathic philosophy by J.T. Kent. That should be the first book inevitably. And then its original, that is, please, Organon of Homeopathic Medicine by the founder himself, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. And after that you take up the Materia Medica, lectures on the homeopathic Materia Medica by the same author, J.T. Kent. Then you can read any book without the danger of being misguided by the authors, because these 2 authors will give you the true perspective of homeopathy and give you the stability enough so that you can guide yourself only in the right lines. Then you can read any other book. No, it is the condition of ill health of one of the parents or both of the parents that makes the child inherit a prolonged lifelong disease, which is not understood as a disease for a very, very long time, and which in homeopathy is called the disease of susceptibility. It causes all diseases to be attracted to the children. Each infection and every contagion in the town or city or any pollution attacks that child, as long as the child is having the disease called susceptibility, which can be inherited from one of the parents. And unless the susceptibility is cured, the other diseases, the more we begin to cure, the more they will be occurring to the child. And sometimes they may take a turn which we call the so-called incurable stage. For example, epilepsy or poliomyelitis, etc. What we call the children diseases are not at all diseases. They are the consequences of only one disease which is inherited from the parents and which can be called susceptibility, about which we can know some detail in our classes. And if the susceptibility is there, the child continues to be sick even though we give medicines and all vitamins and all proteins and all methods of scientific alimentation. So, we should understand the basis in a different way. For an adult, it can be either hereditary or acquired, but when once it is acquired, it is inevitably hereditary to his child. Maybe to one child or 2 children, we can't decide it. Epidemics, stop means, you mean prevention or cure? Stop means cure. Complete cure, only when it is attacked, we give medicine, that's all. Or we give medicine to prevention. Oh yes, suppose he means that in an area we can we give some medicine to prevent it, is it? To cure those who are attacked? Pardon? Yes. Yes. Pardon? Epidemic, yes. What is the actual question? We can do everything. Why something we can do about 100 times more than what we can do in allopathy. And we are doing it. Because we have well organized clinics everywhere with many number of people who serve, and in India we are doing it in a large scale. It is a grand success, always a definite method. It is not prohibited, but garlic is also a strong medicine in homeopathy. But when other medicines are used, this disturbs the other medicines. But when garlic is required according to the homeopathic method, garlic should be used. Garlic is not prohibited, but when other medicines are used, garlic disturbs it, because it is also a medicine. Yes, they are, many of them are cured, and in our clinics we have many on records, more than hundreds, permanent cures, provided the patient is. Yes, but each of these systems should be independently used, no two systems at a time. Then we can get beautiful results. So, thank you. Yes, but each of these systems should be independently used, no two systems at a time. Then we can get beautiful results. So, thank you.